Fort Redstone had stood for 63 years on Tennessee soil, its boundaries marked by chain link and razor wire, its reputation built on discipline and excellence. The K9 unit occupied the eastern perimeter, where handlers trained Belgian Malinois and German Shepherds to detect explosives, narcotics, and human remains. Sergeant Maya Reeves had been assigned there for 18 months, partnered with a 3-year-old Malinois named Cypher, who had never missed a target. The base prepared for its annual readiness assessment, a week-long evaluation scrutinized by Pentagon observers and documented for training manuals nationwide. Every unit faced inspection. Every drill had to be flawless. Failure meant reassignment, budget cuts, or worse, the quiet erosion of a unit standing within the command structure. On Tuesday morning, the K9 unit assembled on Training Field 7, a flat expanse of red clay and sparse grass where handlers ran detection drills monthly. 20 soldiers formed a perimeter. 4 dogs sat at attention beside their handlers. Colonel Warren stood with his clipboard, flanked by 2 Pentagon liaisons in civilian suits who took notes without speaking. Maya checked Cypher's vest, ran her hand along his spine, felt the tension in his muscles. He was alert, focused, ready. She had run this drill 40 times. Cypher had never hesitated. The whistle blew. The first handler released her dog. The shepherd sprinted across the field, nose low, zigzagging through markers. 30 seconds later, the dog sat beside a buried training device. The handler retrieved it, held it high. Applause rippled through the watching soldiers. The second dog performed identically. The third finished in record time. Then Maya's turn came. She unclipped Cypher's lead, pointed toward the field, gave the command. Cypher bolted forward, his stride powerful and certain. But 20 yards in, he stopped, his head lifted, his ears swiveled. Maya watched his body language shift from mission focus to something else. Alarm. Cypher turned 90 degrees, veered left toward an unmarked section of field, and began digging. "Sergeant Reeves." Colonel Warren's voice cut through the morning air. "Recall your dog." Maya raised her whistle, but didn't blow it. Cypher dug faster, dirt flying behind him. His whine carried across the silence, urgent, insistent, the sound he made when he detected something real. "Sergeant, that is a direct order." Maya stepped forward, her boots crushing dry grass. Every eye on the field watched her. The Pentagon liaisons stopped writing. Cypher's digging intensified, his claws scraping something solid beneath the clay. "Sir, he's indicating." Maya's voice remained steady. "He's found something. The devices are marked on the map. That area is clear. With respect, sir, Cypher doesn't false alert." Colonel Warren's jaw tightened. He strode toward her, boots striking the ground with parade ground precision. "You will recall that dog, or I will have him removed from this unit." Maya met his eyes. 18 months of perfect evaluations, Cypher's record, 0 false alerts, 14 confirmed detections, 2 lives saved during a training accident last spring. She thought of the Pentagon observers watching, the entire unit holding its breath, the weight of a single choice. She blew the whistle. Cypher ignored it. The Malinois dug deeper, his front paws disappearing into the hole, his whine rising to a bark, sharp, repetitive, the alert signal that meant here, now, urgent. Maya walked across the field. She didn't run. Protocol demanded control, but her heart hammered against her ribs as she reached Cypher and knelt beside the hole he'd torn into the earth. She saw fabric first, faded green canvas, military issue, buried 18 inches down. Then the corner of something metal. Cypher backed away, sat, stared at her with absolute certainty. Maya looked up at Colonel Warren. "Sir, you need to see this." The colonel approached, the Pentagon liaisons behind him. The entire formation shifted, soldiers craning to see. Maya brushed dirt away from the canvas, exposing a military duffel bag, its zipper corroded but intact. Colonel Warren crouched beside her, His face changed, confusion replaced by recognition, then something harder. Fear. "Clear the field," he said quietly. "Everyone back to barracks, now." "Sir, that's an order, Sergeant." But before the soldiers could move, one of the Pentagon liaisons stepped forward, phone already raised to his ear. "Stop. No one moves until EOD sweeps this location." Within 20 minutes, the explosive ordnance disposal team arrived. Within an hour, they had excavated the duffel and 3 additional containers buried in a grid pattern beneath Training Field 7. By noon, the base was locked down, military police stationed at every gate, and CID investigators photographing the scene. Maya stood beside Cypher, her hand resting on his head, watching them unzip the first bag. Inside, files, photographs, and evidence logs marked with dates from 1983, documents that had been classified, then buried, then forgotten. Cypher had found what 63 years of Fort Redstone had hidden beneath routine and discipline, and now everyone would have to answer for what came next. Chapter 1. The drill that changed everything. Maya had joined the army at 22, drawn by her father's stories of purpose and precision, the promise that discipline could turn chaos into order. She'd scored high on aptitude tests, trained at Fort Leonard Wood, requested K-9 assignment because she understood animals better than most people. Dogs didn't lie. Dogs didn't play politics. A dog's loyalty was absolute, conditional only on fairness and respect. Cypher had been assigned to her straight from training, a compact Malinois with dark eyes and a drive that bordered on obsessive. Their first month together had been rough. He tested her authority, pushed boundaries, refused commands when he sensed uncertainty. But Maya had patience. She learned his body language, his rhythms, the difference between stubbornness and intuition. By month 6, they moved as one unit. Cypher anticipated her commands, read her gestures, responded to shifts in her breathing. When she was tense, he became vigilant. When she relaxed, he settled. Their bond transcended training protocol. It was partnership built on mutual trust. The K-9 unit at Fort Redstone was small but elite. 8 handlers, 12 dogs, led by Master Sergeant Torres, a career soldier with 26 years of service and a reputation for standards that bordered on ruthless. Torres ran drills daily, inspected equipment weekly, tolerated no shortcuts. Under his command, the unit had achieved a 98% detection accuracy rate, earned commendations from 3 base commanders, and trained handlers who went on to serve in special operations. Maya respected Torres. He was fair, competent, and genuinely cared about the dog's welfare. But Colonel Warren, the base commander, was different. Warren had arrived 8 months ago from a desk position at the Pentagon, appointed to modernize operations and improve efficiency metrics. He spoke in acronyms, measured success in spreadsheets, and seemed to view soldiers as data points rather than people. The tension between Torres and Warren had been building for weeks. Warren wanted to reduce K-9 unit funding, argued that technology could replace dogs, proposed transferring half the unit to other bases. Torres fought back through official channels, documented every success, built cases for the unit's value. The annual readiness assessment was supposed to settle the argument. Perfect performance would justify continued funding. That's why the drill on Training Field 7 mattered so much. Maya had reviewed the exercise plan the night before. 4 detection scenarios, 12 minutes per handler, specific targets buried at marked coordinates. Simple, routine. She'd walked Cypher through a practice run at dawn, felt his confidence, saw his focus. Everything indicated a flawless performance. She hadn't anticipated instinct overriding training. Now, standing beside the excavation site with Cypher at her side, Maya watched the CID investigators work with methodical precision. They wore gloves, placed each item into evidence bags, photographed every angle. The duffel bags had been removed to a secure facility, but the holes remained. 4 rectangular pits in the red clay, each exactly 6 feet long and 3 feet deep. Master Sergeant Torres approached, his face unreadable. "You're being questioned at 1400 hours. Base legal office. Am I in trouble? Depends on what they find in those bags." Torres looked at Cypher, then back at Maya. "Your dog did his job. Question is whether anyone wants to admit what he found. What do you think is in there?" "Above my pay grade, Sergeant." But his eyes told a different story. He knew something, or suspected enough to be worried. "Keep Cypher close. Don't talk to anyone until you've spoken with Jag." Maya nodded. She returned to the kennels with Cypher, gave him fresh water, watched him drink with the same intensity he brought to every task. His tail wagged slowly, satisfied. He'd done what he was trained to do. The rest was human complexity. At 1400 hours, Maya sat in a grey room across from 2 Judge Advocate General officers and a CID investigator who introduced himself as Warrant Officer Chen. They asked her to describe the drill, Cypher's behavior, her decision-making process. She answered each question directly, precisely the way she'd been taught. "Why didn't you recall your dog when Colonel Warren ordered you to?" Maya met Chen's eyes. "Because Cypher had detected something. His alert behavior was unmistakable. I trusted his training. You disobeyed a direct order. I prioritized mission completion over immediate compliance." That's not how chain of command works, Sergeant." "With respect, sir, it's exactly how K9 operations work. The handler interprets the dog's signals and acts accordingly. Cypher found something that needed to be found." Chen leaned back, exchanged glances with the JAG officers. "You understand this situation is sensitive." "I understand my dog did his job. The contents of those duffel bags are now part of an active investigation. You're not to discuss this incident with anyone outside this room. That's not a request." Maya signed the non-disclosure agreement they placed in front of her, returned to her barracks and tried to sleep, but her mind replayed the moment again and again. Cypher veering off course, the urgency in his whine, the weight of choosing between orders and instinct. She'd made the right call. She knew it, the way she knew Cypher's moods, the way she knew when rain was coming by the shift in air pressure. But right calls didn't always protect you from consequences. Chapter 2. Questions without answers. Fort Redstone transformed overnight. Military police established checkpoints at every intersection. Civilian employees were sent home early. Training exercises were suspended pending operational review. The base newspaper published a brief notice about routine grounds maintenance, but soldiers knew better. Rumor spread through barracks and mess halls like smoke through ventilation systems. Maya avoided the rumors. She focused on routine, morning run with Cypher, equipment maintenance, kennel cleaning. Master Sergeant Torres gathered the K9 unit for a brief formation, told them to maintain normal operations, offered no explanations. The other handlers watched Maya with a mixture of curiosity and caution, unsure whether to admire or distance themselves from her. Only one handler approached her directly, Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb, a broad-shouldered man from Atlanta who ran a German shepherd named Titan, caught her after evening chow. "That was gutsy," he said quietly. "What you did on the field." "I didn't do anything. Cypher did." "You backed him up. That takes stones." Webb glanced around, lowered his voice. "My dad was stationed here in the 80s. He never talked much about it. But he always said this base had ghosts." Ghosts? Things that happened that nobody wanted to remember. Webb's expression darkened. "He died 3 years ago. Heart attack officially. But he'd been having nightmares since I got assigned here. Woke up shouting about fields and fires." Maya felt cold, despite the evening heat. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because whatever Cypher found, someone buried it for a reason, and people who bury things don't like when they get dug up." He nodded towards Cypher, who sat patiently beside Maya's leg. "Watch your back, and watch his." Webb walked away before Maya could respond. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in her bunk, staring at the ceiling, listening to Cypher's breathing from his crate beside her bed. The base was too quiet. None of the usual sounds of distant training, truck engines, radio chatter, just silence pressing against the windows like deep water. At 0300 hours, her phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Kennel 7. Come alone. Maya dressed quickly, clipped Cypher's lead, walked through darkness toward the K9 facility. The kennels were arranged in 2 rows, chain-link runs with concrete floors and overhead cover. She counted down to Kennel 7, found the gate unlocked. Inside, someone sat on the bench. As Maya approached, a flashlight clicked on, illuminating Master Sergeant Torres's face. "Sir, what—" "Sit down, Sergeant." Torres's voice carried no warmth. "We need to talk before CID finishes their analysis." Maya sat, keeping Cypher between her legs. "What did they find?" "Case files, incident reports, photographs from 1983. Torres's hands shook slightly as he pulled a folded paper from his jacket. "I shouldn't have this. It was leaked by someone in CID who thinks soldiers deserve to know their own history." He handed her the paper. Maya unfolded it, read by flashlight. Incident report, Jakra 84783F date. 15 November 1983, location, training field, 7 Fort Redstone, summary training accident during live-fire exercise, 4 casualties, investigation inconclusive, files sealed under National Security Directive. Below the summary, 4 names, 4 soldiers, ages 19 to 23. "They died during a training exercise," Maya whispered. "They were killed," Torres corrected. "There's a difference. The official story was accidental friendly fire, but soldiers who were there, the ones who survived, they told different stories. Stories about unauthorized experiments, about exposures to chemicals, about commands from officers who disappeared after the incident. Why bury the files? Because someone high up decided the truth was more dangerous than the lie." Torres took the paper back, refolded it carefully. "Fort Redstone almost got shut down in '83. The incident made national news for about a week, then vanished. Families were paid off, witnesses were transferred or discharged, and everything that could prove what really happened got buried in that field." Maya felt Cypher lean against her leg, his warmth steadying her. "What happens now? The CD will investigate. Maybe they'll be honest. Maybe they'll rebury everything with better paperwork." Torres met her eyes. "But you need to understand something. You didn't just find evidence. You found someone's career-ending secret. Maybe multiple someones, and those people have power, connections, reasons to make this disappear. Cypher can't unfind what he found. No, but they can make you wish he had." Torres stood, his joints creaking. "I'm telling you this because you're a good soldier and a good handler. You deserve to know what you're in the middle of. But I can't protect you from what comes next." "I don't need protection, I need the truth." Torres almost smiled. "You sound like your dog, too honest for your own good." He walked toward the gate, paused. "Keep detailed records of everything, every conversation, every order, every threat, and trust your instincts. They've kept you alive this long." He disappeared into darkness, leaving Maya alone with Cypher and the weight of 42-year-old ghosts. Chapter 3. The base holds its breath. By morning, the investigation had expanded. Federal agents arrived in unmarked vehicles, showed credentials that granted them access to every building and record on base. Colonel Warren issued a memo requiring all personnel to cooperate fully with authorized investigators and prohibiting speculation or rumor sharing regarding ongoing security matters. The K9 unit received new orders, suspended from training exercises, pending review. The handlers were confined to administrative duties, paperwork, equipment inventory, kennel maintenance, no field work, no contact with investigative personnel unless directly summoned. Maya spent the morning cleaning Cypher's equipment, polishing his vest buckles, checking his teeth for tartar buildup, busy work designed to occupy hands and minds. But soldiers talked anyway, voices low in the kennel corridors, fragments of overheard conversations from military police who'd seen the excavation site. 4 graves, bones and uniforms, covered up for decades. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. Staff Sergeant Webb found Maya during lunch break. They're interviewing everyone who was on the field. My turn's at 1500. What are you going to tell them? The truth that your dog found something, you backed his alert, Warren tried to shut it down. Webb's jaw tightened. My dad was stationed here when those soldiers died. He knew them. He carried that guilt his whole life because he survived, and they didn't. If there's a chance to finally get them justice, I'm taking it. Even if it costs you? Especially then. Webb gripped her shoulder briefly. Some things matter more than careers. At 1400 hours, Maya was summoned again to base legal. This time, the room held more people. The JAG officers, Warrant Officer Chen, a civilian woman in a dark suit who introduced herself as Deputy Director Sarah Vance from the Department of Defense Inspector General's office. Vance had the kind of face that revealed nothing. Sharp features, grey eyes, posture that suggested decades of bureaucratic combat. She gestured for Maya to sit, then placed a tablet on the table between them, screen facing up. Sergeant Reeves, I want to show you something. The screen displayed photographs, bones arranged on metal tables, tattered uniforms, dog tags encrusted with decades of soil, and documents, yellowed reports, photographs of young soldiers in dress uniforms, smiling, unaware of what waited for them on Training Field 7. Your dog found 4 bodies, Vance said quietly. PFC James Mitchell, age 19, Specialist Karen Torres, age 21, Corporal David Chen, age 23, Private First Class Marcus Washington, age 20. All killed on November 15, 1983, during what was officially classified as a training accident. Maya stared at the photographs. Karen Torres, the same last name as Master Sergeant Torres. Our preliminary investigation suggests this was not an accident. These soldiers were exposed to experimental compounds during an unauthorized field test. When they showed adverse reactions, they were sedated and buried to conceal the experiment's failure. Vance's voice remained level, professional, but anger flickered beneath. Their families were told they died honorably. Their bodies were never recovered. Until now. Who ordered the experiment? That's what we're determining, but I need to know, did anyone attempt to stop your investigation? Threaten you? Suggest you should have left that site alone? Maya considered her answer carefully. Colonel Warren ordered me to recall Cypher. I disobeyed because Cypher's alert was legitimate. Has Colonel Warren spoken to you since the excavation? No, ma'am. Vance made a note. If he does, if anyone in your chain of command attempts to influence your testimony or suggests consequences for your actions, you report directly to me. Understood? Yes, ma'am. You did the right thing, Sergeant. Your dog found something that should have been found 4 decades ago. Now we have a chance to give those soldiers and their families the truth they deserved. Vance powered off the tablet. You're dismissed, but stay available. We'll likely need additional statements. Maya left the legal office with Cypher at her side, walked through afternoon heat toward the kennels, her mind spinning with implications. Master Sergeant Torres's relative, buried and forgotten. Webb's father carrying survivor's guilt for 40 years. 4 young soldiers who trusted their command and died for that trust. And somewhere in Fort Redston's hierarchy, someone who'd helped bury them. Chapter 4. Shadows in the Chain of Command. The next 72 hours passed in strange suspension. The base continued operating, formations, meals, duties, but underneath ran currents of tension and uncertainty. Soldiers watched each other differently, wondering who knew what, who'd been complicit in old sins, who could be trusted. Maya noticed the changes in small ways, how conversations stopped when she entered the mess hall, how officers avoided eye contact in corridors, how even friendly handlers kept distance, as though proximity to her carried risk. Only Webb remained openly supportive, sitting beside her at meals, talking about normal things, football scores, hometown news, his daughter's upcoming birthday. Master Sergeant Torres became a ghost. He appeared for required formations, issued necessary orders, then vanished into his office. Maya tried to speak with him twice, but both times he'd simply shaken his head, a warning that said, "Not now, not yet." On Thursday morning, Colonel Warren called formation for the entire base. 2,000 soldiers assembled on the parade ground under harsh sunlight, standing at attention while Warren stood at a podium flanked by American flags and Fort Redstone's unit colors. "Soldiers of Fort Redstone," Warren's voice echoed across the formation through mounted speakers. "You're aware that an investigation is underway regarding discoveries made during a recent training exercise. I want to address rumors and ensure all personnel understand the facts." Maya stood in formation with the K9 unit, Cypher sitting perfectly beside her left leg. She felt eyes on her back from soldiers in ranks behind. "Historical remains were discovered on Training Field 7, Warren continued. "These remains have been positively identified as soldiers who died in 1983. The circumstances of their deaths are under federal investigation. This command is cooperating fully with investigative authorities." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the assembled formation. "I also want to address certain narratives circulating through unofficial channels. There has been speculation about cover-ups, conspiracies, and institutional failures. Let me be clear, this command will not tolerate unfounded accusations or the spread of inflammatory rumors. We are a professional military organization. We deal in facts, evidence, and proper procedures." Maya felt her jaw tighten. Warren was framing the narrative, establishing boundaries for what soldiers could say or think about what had been found. Any personnel found engaging in unauthorized discussions of this matter, sharing unverified information, or attempting to interfere with the investigation will face disciplinary action under the UCMJ. Am I understood? "Yes, sir." 2,000 voices responded in unison. "Dismissed." The formation broke. Soldiers dispersed toward duty stations, voices carefully quiet. Webb fell into step beside Maya as they returned to the kennels. "That was a threat," he muttered. "That was cover," Maya corrected. "He's scared." "Should we be?" Before Maya could answer, a staff car pulled up beside them. The rear window rolled down, revealing Deputy Director Vance. "Sergeant Reeves, a moment." Maya approached the vehicle. Vance gestured for her to get in. Maya looked at Webb, who nodded, and took Cypher's lead. She slid into the back seat. The car pulled away from the kennels, drove toward the perimeter road. "That was quite a performance from Colonel Warren," Vance said, "calculated to intimidate witnesses and control information flow. Will it work? Depends on whether anyone has the courage to speak anyway." Vance turned to face Maya directly. "We've completed preliminary forensics on the remains. Cause of death for all 4 soldiers was respiratory failure consistent with chemical exposure. We also found documents in those buried bags, experiment protocols, authorization signatures, incident reports that were never filed through proper channels. Who signed the authorizations? 3 officers, 2 are deceased. The third..." Vance paused. Lieutenant Colonel William Warren, assigned to Fort Redstone's Chemical Defense Division in 1983. Now, Colonel William Warren, your base commander. Maya felt the words settle like ice in her chest. He was involved. He signed authorizations for the experiments, whether he knew the risks, whether he tried to stop what happened after the soldiers died. Those are questions we're investigating. Vance's expression hardened. But it explains why he tried to shut down your dog's alert. He knew what was buried in that field. What happens now? We continue investigating, we build the case, and we protect witnesses who might face retaliation. Vance handed Maya a card with a phone number. You call this number if anything happens. Anything. Threats, strange orders, accidents that don't feel like accidents. Warren has decades of connections and a strong motivation to make this investigation disappear. I'm not disappearing. I know. That's why I'm worried about you. The car stopped at the kennels. Your dog found truth that powerful people wanted buried. Now you have to be strong enough to stand by what he found. Maya took the card, stepped out of the vehicle, watched it drive away. She rejoined Webb, took Cypher's lead, felt the Malinois lean against her leg with absolute trust. Truth was supposed to matter, justice was supposed to prevail. But Maya had been a soldier long enough to know that powerful people protected themselves first and served justice only when it aligned with their interests. She thought of 4 young soldiers buried in a training field for 42 years. Their families fed lies, their deaths concealed beneath layers of paperwork and authority. Cypher had given them a voice. Now Maya had to make sure someone listened. Chapter 5. When Loyalty Means Risk. Friday arrived with rain, heavy drops that turned Fort Redstone's red clay to mud and filled drainage ditches with rust-colored water. The weather matched the base's mood, dark, unsettled, waiting for something to break. Maya ran morning PT with Cypher, despite the rain, pushing through 5 miles while water soaked through her uniform and plastered her hair to her skull. Physical exertion helped clear her mind, forced her body to focus on immediate tasks rather than spiraling anxiety. Cypher ran beside her with obvious joy, splashing through puddles, shaking water from his coat, completely unconcerned with investigations or consequences. Dogs lived in the present. Humans haunted themselves with past and future. Back at the kennels, Maya found Master Sergeant Torres waiting in her assigned space. He stood with his arms crossed, rain dripping from his jacket, his face carved from stone. "Kennel 3, he said. "Private conversation." They walked to the empty kennel, closed the gate behind them. Torres didn't speak for a long moment, just stared through chain link at the rain-soaked compound. "Karen Torres was my cousin," he finally said. "She was the first woman in our family to join the army. Smart, tough, wanted to make a difference. She wrote me letters from basic training, told me about her plans for after her service. She was 21 years old." Maya remained silent, letting him speak. When they told her parents she died in a training accident, they bought it, believed their daughter had served honorably and been buried with full military honors. They held a funeral with an empty casket. My aunt wore her grief like a uniform for the rest of her life. Torres's hands gripped the chain link, knuckles white. "I joined up 6 years later, requested Fort Redstone specifically because I wanted to walk where Karen had walked. And I've been here 17 years, standing on her grave, and never knowing it." "I'm sorry," Maya said quietly. "Don't be sorry. Be ready." Torres turned to face her. "Vance's investigation is solid, but Warren has allies, Pentagon connections, politicians who owe him favors, media contacts who'll spin whatever narrative serves their interests. He's going to fight this with everything he has. I'm just a sergeant. I found something and reported it. You're a witness. You disobeyed his direct order. You made it impossible for him to contain the situation." Torres's eyes were hard, but not unkind. "That makes you dangerous to him." What should I do? Document everything. Record conversations if legal. Keep Cypher close. He's evidence too, in a way. And understand that telling the truth in this situation might end your military career. Maya had known that from the moment Cypher started digging. Some truths carried prices. My cousin deserves justice, Torres continued. Those other 3 soldiers deserve justice. Their families deserve to know what really happened. If that means my career ends too, fine. I've had 17 good years. But I won't stand by and watch them get buried again, this time under paperwork and procedural delays. What are you going to do? I've given Vance everything I know, every rumor I've heard in 17 years, every odd pattern I've noticed, every file that got pulled or disappeared. I'm testifying formally next week. He straightened, military bearing reasserting itself. After that, Warren will probably have me transferred or court-martialed. But I'll have told the truth first. Maya respected that kind of courage, the willingness to sacrifice position for principle. I'll testify too, whatever they need. I know you will. You're like your dog, too stubborn to lie. Torres almost smiled. That's a compliment, by the way. He left her alone in Kennel 3, rain drumming on the metal roof, Cypher shaking water from his coat in rhythmic bursts. Maya sat on the concrete bench, felt cold seeping through her wet uniform, and wondered how many other soldiers on this base knew the truth and had stayed silent for decades. Silence was safe. Silence protected careers and reputations. Silence let you sleep at night without questioning whether you'd done enough. But silence also meant 4 young soldiers stayed buried without justice, their families carrying false comfort, their deaths classified as unfortunate accidents rather than preventable murders. Maya thought about her father's stories of army honor, doing the hard right over the easy wrong, standing for those who couldn't stand for themselves, maintaining integrity when it would be simpler to look away. She'd joined to uphold those principles. Now they were being tested in ways she'd never anticipated. That afternoon, Maya received orders to report to Colonel Warren's office at 1600 hours. No explanation, just the directive. Webb heard about it through the base grapevine and caught her before she left the kennels. "Don't go alone," he said. "Request a witness. It's your right." "If I request a witness, it looks like I don't trust him." "You shouldn't trust him." Maya considered that. "I'm taking Cypher." "That's not what I meant. It's what I'm doing." At exactly 1600 hours, Maya stood outside Colonel Warren's office in a freshly pressed uniform, Cypher at perfect heel position. She knocked, heard enter, and stepped inside. Warren's office was precisely arranged. Flags perfectly aligned, desk clear except for a single folder. Photographs on the walls, showing Warren with various military and political dignitaries. He sat behind his desk in his service uniform, ribbons displayed, posture rigid. "Sit, Sergeant Reeves." He gestured to the chair opposite his desk. "The dog can wait outside." "With respect, sir, Cypher is part of my duty equipment. Where I go, he goes." Warren's eyes narrowed. But he didn't push the issue. "Then have him sit." Maya commanded Cypher to sit beside her chair. The Malinois obeyed instantly, his focus absolute. Warren opened the folder, pulled out several papers. "I've reviewed your record, Sergeant. Exemplary performance scores, multiple commendations, recommendations for advanced training." He looked up. "You've built an impressive career." "Thank you, sir." "It would be unfortunate if that career were compromised by poor judgment or misplaced loyalty." There it was, the threat wrapped in professional language. "Sir, I'm not sure I understand." "The investigation into the discoveries on Training Field 7 is creating unnecessary disruption to this base's operations. Personnel are distracted. Training schedules are disrupted. Morale is suffering." Warren leaned forward. "None of this would have happened if you had simply followed orders and recalled your dog." Cypher detected legitimate evidence, sir. I followed K9 protocols. You disobeyed a direct command from your base commander. I prioritized mission completion as my training requires. Warren's jaw tightened. Let me be clear, Sergeant. The federal investigation will conclude in due time. The findings will be what they will be, but your continued cooperation with investigators who are asking leading questions and encouraging speculation does not serve this base's interests. I've answered questions truthfully, sir. Truth is complicated. Memory is imperfect. Interpretation varies. Warren's voice dropped lower. You're young. You have decades of potential service ahead of you. Transfers to elite units, specialized training, advancement opportunities. All of that depends on demonstrating sound judgment and understanding where your loyalties lie. Maya kept her voice steady. My loyalty is to the Army's values, sir. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service. Don't quote the creed at me, Sergeant. Warren's professional mask slipped, revealing anger beneath. I've served this country for 30 years. I've made difficult decisions that soldiers like you can't comprehend. Sometimes protecting the institution means accepting hard truths about imperfect situations. 4 soldiers died, sir. Their families deserve to know what happened. Their families were notified 42 years ago. This investigation serves no purpose except to damage reputations and question decisions made in different times under different circumstances. With respect, sir, that's not for either of us to decide. The investigation will determine what happened and who was responsible. Warren stood, his chair scraping against the floor. You're dismissed, Sergeant, but understand this. Your actions have consequences. For you, for this unit, for everyone involved. Think carefully about whether you want to be remembered as a soldier who served her country or as someone who tore down an institution because her dog dug a hole. Maya stood, brought Cypher to heel position, saluted. Warren returned the salute mechanically. She left his office, walked through corridors that seemed narrower and darker, returned to the kennels where Webb waited with obvious anxiety. How bad? He threatened my career if I keep cooperating with the investigation. That's illegal. It's also effective. Maya knelt beside Cypher, ran her hands through his fur. He's betting most soldiers will choose their careers over abstract principles. What are you going to do? Maya looked at Cypher, at his dark eyes full of trust and certainty. He'd found something wrong and alerted to it because that's what he was trained to do. No hesitation, no calculation of consequences. Just duty performed with absolute integrity. She could do no less. I'm calling Deputy Director Vance, Maya said. And I'm testifying to everything Warren just told me. Webb nodded slowly. Good. I'll testify too. Whatever happens, we do it together. They were just 2 soldiers in a system designed to protect itself. But truth had a way of spreading once someone was brave enough to speak it first. Chapter 6. The institution pushes back. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Sergeant Maya Reeves reach those who still believe in honor. By Saturday morning, the situation had escalated. 2 military police officers appeared at the K9 unit with orders to confiscate Cypher for evidence processing. Maya read the paperwork twice, her pulse hammering in her ears. The orders were signed by Colonel Warren, countersigned by the base JAG office, and appeared technically legitimate. He's staying with me, Maya said. Ma'am, these are lawful orders. He's not evidence. He's a working military dog assigned to my care. If you want to process him, you'll need authorization from K9 Command and a veterinary transport team. The MPs exchanged glances. They were young, uncomfortable, clearly not eager to forcibly remove a trained protection dog from his handler. We'll need to verify the procedures, one finally said. They retreated to their vehicle to make calls. Master Sergeant Torres appeared from his office, his expression thunderous. What the hell is happening? Maya handed him the confiscation orders. Torres read them, his face darkening with each line. This is retaliation. They're trying to separate you from your witness protection. He pulled out his phone, dialed rapidly. This is Master Sergeant Torres at Fort Redstone K9 Unit. I need immediate guidance on attempted confiscation of a working military dog under questionable authority. The call lasted 10 minutes. Torres's voice remained controlled but hard, citing regulations, demanding proper procedures, refusing to back down. Finally, he ended the call and turned to the MPs who'd returned from their vehicle. You're not taking that dog without proper K9 command authorization and veterinary oversight. Those orders are being challenged through appropriate channels. Until this is resolved, Sergeant Reeves maintains custody. The MPs looked relieved to have an escape route. We'll report back to command, Master Sergeant. They left. Torres watched them go, then turned to Maya. Pack Cypher's equipment and your personal gear. You're moving to visiting personnel quarters immediately. Isolated location, better security, harder for anyone to approach you without witnesses. Sir, I haven't been ordered. I'm ordering you as your unit commander. Cypher is potentially at risk, which means you're at risk. Until this investigation concludes, you're not sleeping in open barracks where anyone can access you. Maya understood the subtext. Warren was escalating. The attempt to confiscate Cypher was just the opening move. She moved into VPQ Building 7, a small single-room unit with a separate entrance and external security cameras. Webb helped her carry equipment, then stood at her door with his hands in his pockets. This is getting ugly fast, he said. It was always going to get ugly. We just didn't know how fast. My dad told me once that the army eats its conscience when the conscience becomes inconvenient. I didn't understand what he meant until now. Maya secured Cypher's crate in the corner of the room, laid out his food and water bowls with precise spacing. The army is people. Some people have conscience, some don't. We're finding out which is which. That night, Maya called Deputy Director Vance and reported Warren's office conversation and the attempted confiscation. Vance listened without interruption, then asked Maya to send copies of all paperwork and documentation. This strengthens the case, Vance said. Warren's trying to obstruct the investigation and intimidate witnesses. That's federal obstruction, but it also means he's desperate. What should I expect next? Escalation. He'll try to discredit you, your service record, your testimony. He'll look for anything that can undermine your credibility. Professional complaints, personal issues, past mistakes. Anything he can weaponize. My record is clean. Then he'll try to make it dirty. Vance's voice softened slightly. I've been doing this work for 22 years, Sergeant. I've seen institutions protect their own at any cost. But I've also seen truth win when brave people refuse to back down. You're doing the right thing. Doesn't always feel that way. It rarely does. But years from now, when those 4 soldiers' families finally know what happened to their children, you'll understand why it mattered. After the call, Maya sat on the floor beside Cypher's crate, her hand resting on his side as he slept. His breathing was steady, peaceful, completely trusting. He didn't know about institutional pressure or career threats. He just knew she fed him, trained him, and had his back. Simple loyalty, uncomplicated by fear or ambition. Sunday morning brought new developments. Maya arrived at the kennels for routine duties and found Staff Sergeant Webb waiting with a printed document. You need to read this, he said, his voice tight. The document was an internal memo from Colonel Warren to all unit commanders. Effective immediately. All K9 unit personnel are restricted from contact with federal investigators without explicit command approval. Any violations will result in disciplinary action under Article 92 of the UCMJ for failure to obey a lawful order. He's trying to silence witnesses, Maya said. He's trying to save himself. Webb crumpled the memo. But he's too late. I already gave my full statement to Vance. So did Torres. So did 3 other handlers who remember rumors from years back. He'll retaliate against all of you. Let him try. My dad died carrying guilt for 42 years because he survived when his friends didn't. If I can give him some posthumous peace by helping bring those soldiers justice, Warren can do his worst. That afternoon, Maya was summoned to the Base Inspector General's office, not by the federal investigation, but by Fort Redstone's internal IG. A different kind of interrogation. The Fort Redstone IG, a lieutenant colonel named Morrison, sat across from Maya with a stack of files and a recorder running. Sergeant Reeves, there have been allegations regarding your conduct during the November 10th training exercise, specifically that you willfully disobeyed a direct order from Colonel Warren, that you continued unauthorized actions despite repeated commands to cease, and that you made statements to other personnel that questioned command authority. Maya kept her voice level. I followed K9 protocols when my dog indicated a legitimate alert. I prioritized mission completion as my training requires. Multiple witnesses state that Colonel Warren clearly ordered you to recall your dog. You ignored that order. I assessed that Cypher had detected something requiring investigation. His alert behavior was consistent with legitimate fines. I used my professional judgment as his handler. Morrison leaned forward. Your professional judgment does not override direct orders from your commanding officer. The chain of command exists for a reason. I'm not disputing chain of command, sir. I'm explaining that K9 handlers are trained to interpret their dog's signals and act accordingly. Cypher found evidence that needed to be found. That's convenient justification after the fact. It's documented protocol, sir. I can provide the training manuals if needed. Morrison made notes. There are also allegations that you've been encouraging other soldiers to question command decisions, that you've shared unverified information about ongoing investigations, and that you've been in unauthorized contact with federal investigators. Maya felt anger rising, but forced it down. I've answered questions truthfully when asked by authorized investigators. I haven't shared classified information with anyone, and I haven't encouraged anyone to do anything except follow regulations and tell the truth. Truth is not always clear in complex situations. With respect, sir, truth is exactly as clear as people allow it to be. Morrison ended the interview 15 minutes later. Maya left the IG office understanding she'd been given a preview of the defense Warren would mount, portray her as insubordinate, question her judgment, suggest she was driven by personal agenda rather than duty, classic institutional protection, attack the messenger, ignore the message. Back at her VPQ, Maya found a note slipped under her door. Handwritten, unsigned. They're trying to destroy you. Don't let them. Others are watching and learning courage from you. She didn't know who'd written it. Could have been Webb, Torres, someone else in the K9 unit, or a soldier she'd never met who'd heard the story and respected what she was doing. But it mattered, knowing that truth had witnesses, that integrity still meant something to someone, that 4 dead soldiers might finally get justice because one living soldier refused to look away. Maya kept the note, tucked it into her uniform pocket where she could feel it against her chest. Some fights you fought because you had to. This was one of them. Chapter 7. Breaking Point. Monday morning arrived with the kind of institutional tension that precedes catastrophe. Maya felt it the moment she stepped outside her VPQ, the way soldiers averted their eyes, how conversations stopped mid-sentence, the quality of silence that suggested everyone was waiting for something to explode. She ran morning PT with Cypher, maintaining routine despite the weight pressing against her ribs. 5 miles in 42 minutes, her breath forming clouds in cold air, Cypher matching her stride perfectly. Physical discipline when everything else felt chaotic. At the kennels, Master Sergeant Torres called formation for the K9 unit. 8 handlers, 12 dogs. standing at attention while Torres faced them with an expression carved from granite. As of 0600 this morning, I've been relieved of command pending investigation into allegations of conduct unbecoming. Captain Morrison from Base IG will assume temporary command of this unit. I'm confined to quarters except for required appearances. My departure is effective immediately. Silence. Then Webb's voice, tight with anger. What are the allegations, Master Sergeant? Improper handling of classified information, insubordination, failure to maintain proper standards. Torres's voice remained steady. All false, all designed to remove me from this investigation before I can testify. That's illegal, Master Sergeant. That's politics, Webb, and politics always wins until someone stands up and calls it what it is. Torres looked at each handler in turn. Continue your duties, maintain standards, take care of your dogs, and remember that the truth matters more than careers. He walked away, shoulders square, uniform immaculate, pride intact even as his career was systematically dismantled. Maya felt something harden in her chest. This was the cost of speaking truth to power. Not abstract principle anymore, real consequences to real people who'd done nothing wrong except refuse to stay silent. At 1000 hours, Maya was summoned to Colonel Warren's office again. This time, the base JAG officer accompanied her as witness. Standard procedure for disciplinary proceedings. Warren had 2 folders on his desk. He opened the first with deliberate precision. Sergeant Reeves, you are hereby formally charged with Article 92 violations, failure to obey a lawful order, specifically your refusal to recall your dog during the November 10th training exercise. You are also charged with Article 133 violations, conduct unbecoming, specifically making statements that undermine command authority and sharing sensitive information without authorization. The JAG officer, a captain named Hayes, maintained professional neutrality but shot Maya a quick glance that seemed almost apologetic. "Sir," Maya said carefully, "I followed K9 protocols when my dog indicated, 'Your dog is not your commanding officer, Sergeant. I am. When I give you a direct order, you obey. Period.'" Warren opened the second folder. "These charges will proceed to court-martial unless you agree to the following. Voluntary transfer to Fort Polk, Louisiana, effective immediately. No K9 assignment. No testimony in the federal investigation. No contact with investigative personnel or media. Sign the transfer papers, and the charges disappear. It was surrender or destruction. Take exile or face career-ending court-martial." Maya looked at Cypher, sitting perfectly at her side, trusting her completely. She thought about Karen Torres, buried for 42 years, about Webb's father, carrying survivors' guilt to his grave, about 4 young soldiers who trusted their command and died for it. "I respectfully decline the transfer, sir. I'll face the court-martial." Warren's face flushed dark. "You're making a mistake." "No, sir. I'm making a choice." She saluted, turned, left his office with Cypher at heel and Captain Hayes following behind. Once they were outside, Hayes spoke quietly. "Off the record, Sergeant. That took guts. More than most officers I know would have. Will I get a fair court-martial? Honestly, probably not. Warren has influence. He'll stack the panel, control the narrative, make this about insubordination rather than what you actually found." Hayes paused, but the federal investigation is moving faster than he anticipated. If charges are brought against him before your court-martial concludes, everything changes.